Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Science of Flipping podcast. I'm your host, Justin Colby. This podcast is all about real estate investing, tactics, tools, training, systems, people, hiring, scaling for you to become not just incredibly rich, but incredibly wealthy. And so if you are listening to this on iTunes, I encourage you to do one thing. I say it every time. Make sure you are actually watching it also on YouTube. youtube.com/Justin Colby. Make sure you're subscribing. And if you are on iTunes, I really encourage you and give me a 5-star review. I would love that. So I actually had a great call yesterday with one of my lenders who does a lot of my lending on my rental portfolio, as well as any flips that I'm looking to buy and flip. And to be honest, after doing 600 plus rehab flips, I'm slowing down. Flips are not my favorite thing, and quite honestly, it's because the brain power and the time suck and energy suck of contractors. Now, if you're a contractor, I love you, I appreciate it, but rehabbing is always the biggest headache of this business. So if I can give you guys any advice, become better business people, create line item bids where you're literally showing the cost of material and the cost of labor. Make sure you are going to be very clear on what this is, and don't just give a cheap, rehab bid just to get the job, and then all of a sudden it gets inflated while the job is going. So with that said, I am still remodeling a lot of my rentals and flipping homes and all of that. But anyways, let's get to the point, Justin. I had a great conversation with my lenders. Again, they lend on remodels. They lend on my long-term holds. Here's what I will tell you. Banks at this point, for us real estate investors, almost are useless. The only reason why I could see using a bank now is if I need a massive portfolio loan. Otherwise, my lender, Lima One Capital, and if you guys do want my resource, I'm happy to introduce you. All I ask is give me a 5-star review on iTunes and like this video on YouTube. Make sure you are subscribed, and I will give you my lender. I will give you my resource for you to be able to buy more long-term rentals and for you to be able to buy more flips. Happy to do that. All you have to do is like the video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and 5-star review on iTunes. So with that said, I had a great conversation about the difference in their lending criteria. And on long-term rentals, they will lend as long as they see the ARV, right, after I do the rehab, as long as they project the ARV to be north of $100,000. So if I'm buying a home for $20,000 and the ARV is 70, they won't lend long-term on that property. Would they consider maybe lending short-term? Maybe, but even then, they won't do it. And so what I will tell you is the next conversation I had with them is where is their barometer for the short-term rental? In the short-term, not short-term rental, short-term hold, meaning it's going to be a flip, right? I'm going to hold it at 90 days, 120 days, 150 days, etc. At that point, they're willing to lend no less than $75,000 on a short-term flip. So the minimum I can borrow on a long-term hold is going to be $50,000. That's the minimum I can borrow, right? So I can't buy the home for 20 grand and get a loan for that. They won't do it, right? At that point, you should really be using private money anyways, whether it's your money, friends' money, family members' money, etc. On the short-term flip money, they won't lend less than $75,000. Now, here's the really cool part. Will they reimburse me for the remodel? So there are homes that I actually pay more for the remodel than I do the home, right? I'm essentially almost just buying the land. But they will reimburse me for those remodels. So I don't need a huge amount of capital if it doesn't fit the under $75,000 rule for the short term. If it doesn't fit the $50,000 for the long term, again, they will reimburse me my remodeling budget. And the key here, guys, is you can get a long-term 30-year loan with this group at 5% interest. Now, banks might give you a 4% interest, but now you have to go through the banks and all the headaches. These guys can fund in like 2 weeks, right? The game has really, really changed. And yes, I am buying homes that sometimes are $20,000 and I have to put $60,000 into it. But what they will likely do is they will refi 100% of my own dollars out once I get this thing rented. Again, it's the BRRRR method. Buy it, rehab it, rent it, refinance. If you want to add that fifth R or the fourth R, repeat, right? So I would tell you guys, if you can find the personal money, if you can find friends or family member that can give you a short-term loan just to get it to the point of rented, and then have the bank refi all of their money out, that's the game plan. Now, here's what we're gonna do. I'm looking at buying another home today or tomorrow in Oklahoma City. I think the buy price is gonna be roughly $125,000. So that hits the criteria for the short term and the long term. Now, I'm gonna keep this. This is not gonna be a flip. So I'm gonna go straight for the long term. And then I am gonna actually, remodel it myself, and then they will reimburse me my remodeling budget. I could also technically do the short term, but the short term loan is, I think, 7.9% interest. The long term loan is 5%, and I don't want two sets of fees. So I could technically do it in the short term, right? And then refi out to the long term, but then I have two sets of loan fees. If I can save an extra couple grand, I'd like to. So I'm gonna put the file into them today. I'm gonna choose my best option. I think I'll just go with the long term, right? Because the home doesn't need a lot. It only needs about $25,000 or so. I'm having my contractor walk it today or tomorrow, depends on how busy he is with my other project. But it's gonna all be virtual. I've never set foot inside of Oklahoma, the state, let alone I'm buying flips, I'm buying rentals in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, right? And so my business is running virtually, and these lenders are making that business run very easily. So I'm gonna put the property into the file. My girl is gonna look at it and she kind of say, hey, maybe just do the short term because of this reason, or maybe do the long term because of this reason. I think I'm just gonna go long term out of the gate, save myself a couple dollars. But once the file is reviewed, I will make that decision. The point of this is using banks is getting to the point of not necessary at all. It used to be really important to have bank relationships. Again, I use Lima One Capital. If you want my personal resource, the girl that does all of my stuff, I will give her to you. Like the video, subscribe to my channel, give me a 5-star review. That's what this is all about. I'm happy to give you guys my resources. Banks are becoming irrelevant. In fact, I just did another YouTube video about fractional banking. If you don't know what that is, basically the banks are ripping us all off. Why do we even use banks? At this point, the Federal Reserve has allowed them to essentially keep none of our money in the bank, and they can lend 100% out, which means that even if they're lending at 3 or 4% interest, they keep all of that. We get none of it. It's a racket, guys. I love Lima One Capital. I'll give you the contact. With all that said, hopefully you guys are having a great day. I will see you guys and talk to you guys on the next podcast episode. Peace.